It's the Auburn Observer podcast. This is gonna be a fun one. We got a whole lot to talk about in a short amount of time because we're both busy people. Us being Justin Ferguson here, joined by my co-pilot per usual, Dan Peck, who has continued his world travels, and I'm about to embark on some more of my own. How we doing, Dan?
Ahoy, Justin. We're not in the Wings 94.3 studio, although we do want to give a big shout out to our pals at Wings 94.3 who let us use the studio frequently. But I've been on the road. Just got back last night from Farmville, Virginia, where the Trojans rallied from down 23 to beat Longwood. One of a couple of times I've seen Shanda Rigby and her team come back from pretty significant deficits, 20-plus. I think it's the second biggest comeback in a game since Troy became a D1 program in women's basketball. So, yeah, it was 46-23 at the media timeout in the second quarter, and the Trojans played well enough the rest of the way to win the game by 3. They got a stop at the end and continue the hottest start that they've had. 8-1 now. They are a top 65 net ranking team, and they're in the top 5 of the mid-major top 25 right now. So it's things are rolling for Shanda Rigby and the Troy Trojans with conference play starting in just a couple of weeks. I'll be back in Virginia in like 2 weeks for the ODU game. So one of a couple of noteworthy things Troy has going on in Virginia over the next couple of weeks with a big Sun Belt title game on the menu this weekend as well.
Yeah, so I mean, really cool stuff there. As Dan said, he was in Virginia. I'm heading off to Arizona for Auburn, Arizona. I'm really looking forward to that. I've never been to Tucson before. Been to Phoenix several times. Never been to Tucson. Looking forward to going to the McHale Center for the first time. Auburn's going to have a really big challenge on its hands against that Arizona team. We will talk about that later in the show. You did mention Wings 94.3. Dan, real quick, do you want to play the Wings 94.3 game right now? I'm looking at what the answer is. What is playing on Wings 94.3 right now as we record this on Thursday? You're hearing this for the first time on Friday morning for those of you at home.
All right. I'm tempted to go since I think this week is the 60th anniversary of the release of Rubber Soul by the Beatles, so I may go pretty old here and take something like We Can Work It Out, or even I'll go a little bit more recent. I'll hedge my bet here. Burning Down the House, Talking Heads.
Okay, so when you pivoted from Beatles,
was I closer with the Beatles guess?
That was no.
Okay,
you got closer with Talking Heads. The answer is Never Tear Us Apart by NXS.
Oh, okay. That's a real good one. There's the when the guitars kick in Never Tear Us Apart, that's a moment right there for that's a high point of that song. So Wings 94.3, you're home for classic hits. Always happy to mention our pals over there.
100%. All right, so this is another Drinking from a Fire Hose podcast. We are going to talk a lot in a short amount of time because it is a busy time. But we appreciate everybody listening and everybody tuning in. By the way, if you're listening to this right now, you are an Observer subscriber, which means we appreciate you guys very, very much. Got some new ones this week because we are doing that deal. I completely jacked up my idea for the Christmas sale on our last podcast. I just teased the completely wrong one.
And so we've decided that Christmas is canceled this year. Yes. As a matter of fact, the Observer podcast we're going full Grinch.
Instead, we'll talk about Grinch in a second. For the first 25 days of December, counting down to Christmas, 25% off your first year of an annual subscription. So that is $45 for a full year. So you could get all of next football season, the rest of this basketball season, or I guess the regular season in football, and get into the heart of next basketball season, all with this subscription. I say that to tell you this: if you're listening to this, you're already on board. But if you want to give a gift subscription, $45 full year. That discount does apply to gift subscriptions. And if you give a gift subscription, you can set it to go live whenever you want to. All you got to have is the other person's email. And number two, you can email me if you've done this already. You can email me if you've given a gift subscription, and I will add some free time onto your account, just as a way of saying thanks for, spreading the word, and because you guys are our best and brightest marketing arm, really our only marketing arm. So good work by y'all.
Hey, how about the folks mentioning us in their like Spotify Wrapped and their like podcast? Are we talking?
That's really cool. Yeah.
Shout out.
That never gets old. That junk never gets old, man. Like it's awesome that there's so many of y'all who listen to this, like, dedicated listenership. It's awesome. It's awesome. Like, again, we have a bigger subscriber base than I thought we would ever get here, which we're very grateful for and blessed to have. But like, we're not a juggernaut. We don't have corporate backing. It's just us. And so that community,
0% AI, 0% funded by sports books. The Observer podcast promise.
Yeah, we are slightly funded, at least in Dan's case, by Vegas table gambling, but that's a different story for a different time.
Ill-gotten gains are a different, a different category.
But we've got to talk Auburn, NC State basketball. We are going to talk Alex Golish, the hire, his introduction since the last time we talked. We'll talk some signing day because I think Auburn did a pretty good job of salvaging what was a pretty rough situation, and we'll talk all that. And then we're going to preview Auburn basketball going to Arizona. So a whole lot going on. Let's dive right in. Dan, Auburn 83, NC State 73. This was vintage Stephen Pearl in so many ways because Auburn beats an NC State team that's a top 35 team in KenPom. This could end up, if NC State gets on a run, this could end up being a quad one game this season. It's not like terribly, terribly far off from that, but at the very least, a very high quad two victory, a quality victory that will help you come Selection Sunday. Auburn wins that game by 10, and Stephen Pearl's immediate quote after the game is, we're so fortunate to be at Auburn and have a fan base that continually shows up even when the product, like tonight, sucked. Tough grader, Stephen Pearl is, Mr. Positivity. But I do think, Dan, I think the big takeaway for me from this game is that there's a lot Auburn could clean up from this game. And the fact that you still beat a good NC State team by 10 at home, I think says a lot about what the ceiling of this team is. But also just kind of underscores this is a young team that consistency is going to be up and down and up and down. We've said that all season long. You saw that in this game where Auburn really struggles in an area where they haven't all this season. Really the first half against St. John's and then this game, turning the ball over at a really high clip.
How long did it take Auburn to get their season high in turnovers in this game, right? Weren't they already there by like halftime? Or close to it.
It was close to it. I mean, Auburn had 3 turnovers before their first bucket, and that was a sign. That felt like a sign in this game. Finished with 20 turnovers in this game. A couple of really interesting stats from this. Most turnovers in a game for Auburn in 3 years. You got to go back to that USC loss in Los Angeles a few years ago. Also, the last time Auburn turned the ball over 20 times and beat a power conference team, a high major team, Will Wade was the head coach at LSU. That was the last time Auburn had done that. So, I mean, it's funny how it kind of played according to type. NC State had not been a very big, like, pressure heavy, forcing a ton of turnover defense. Auburn was just really sloppy with the ball in this game. And if we're doing a quad observer from this game, the observer for number one, we'll get to all the good stuff, but this turnover rate was really shocking for a team that, when Auburn held on to the ball, they got pretty much whatever they wanted on offense.
And Will Wade's teams, you go back to like the VCU days, right, when he replaced Shaka, like they were running some of that havoc stuff. But in a portal era where he's got to go get high dollar marquee talent, it's tough to get some of those guys to buy into 40 minutes of pressure. 94 feet of pressure defense. And so his style has evolved a little bit. And I think, NC State deserves some of the credit, certainly, for playing the defense that forced those turnovers. But I still think, you don't want to lose sight of the fact that Auburn won this game. But Stephen Pearl sounded like he wanted to send the message, Auburn will not win enough playing like that, especially not taking care of the ball. It's one of the – when we asked Stephen Pearl, we got the first 2 questions up at the inaugural press conference, and my question was sort of like, what are the characteristics going to be of a Stephen Pearl basketball team? And taking care of the basketball was one of the first 2 or 3 things he said. Like, that's –
Which Which for most of the first 8 games of the season they had done. They had done really well. They were one of the better teams in the country in turnover rate. The first half against St. John's, and then this game they didn't. And trying to pin down why, I think is interesting because, Will Wade after the game said, we changed up our ball screen coverage. We were trapping. We were blitzing a lot more, and I think that affected Auburn. When that's brought up to Stephen Pearl after the game, he said, I don't think it really had much of an impact. We want teams to do that. We want you to be aggressive. And you see this in this game. I think there's a Philip Jovich early dunk. There's a couple of really good buckets in the second half as well where you can tell when a team gets aggressive on Auburn and you make the smart pass, it's just pop, pop, somebody's open. Like somebody's going to be open. When you send 2 to the ball at any point, the other team's going to have the advantage if they can take care of it. And that's the risk you run, right? You gamble, pressing and trapping and doubling like that is a gamble because good teams can pass their way out of it and score. Auburn did not do that nearly enough. When they did, it worked. It's crazy to think, Dan, this game, Auburn scores on over half of its possessions. They turn it over on 30% of their possessions, which means only 17%, less than 1 out of every 5 trips down the floor ended with Auburn missing a shot and NC State getting it. Mm-hmm. And just like traditional, this is a defensive stop. Some of those turnovers were forced for sure. Even I thought some of the steals, it was just tough. And I think Keyshawn Hall said this after the game. And by the way, Keyshawn Hall, 28 points, Kevin Overton, 29. We will definitely get into those guys and how awesome they were in this game. They're the reason why they won, along with the defense. But Keyshawn Hall said after the game he thought the focus for Auburn early was not where it needed to be. NC State's defense is not good. I mean, they are very susceptible on that end of the floor. They had just given up a ton to Texas. And I think Auburn played in that first half when they were turning all over as much. I think you saw a team that just wasn't expecting NC State to do what they did on defense. And they thought they could do some tough stuff a lot easier. There's a lot of, ill-advised passes, trying to do too much, playing off of 1 foot, throwing hook passes over your head, just trying to get a little too amped up with it because you think, oh, this is not a very good defense. I can go out there and put on a show. Let's move this thing around. And I think Auburn was too loose with it, not focused enough. And when they were under control, I think Jovich is a great example in this game. Sebastian Williams-Adams had 4 assists in this game. Had a really good second half after turning the ball over a good bit for a stretch in the first half. I think both of those guys are really good examples of like when Auburn had the ball and secured it and was patient with it and found, and took care, made smart passes, made the smart play instead of the flashy play. It worked. I mean, Auburn was scoring at will whenever they weren't turning over the ball. And so I think that's the thing that stood out to me is that you saw a young team still trying to learn one another, kind of get hit in the face with the reality of, hey, just because the other team's not good on defense doesn't mean this thing's going to be sweet. Like NC State was out there to fight because they've lost 3 out of their last 4, and like they've got a limited amount of time to pick up some quality wins before conference play starts.
And this is a Will Wade. I mean, Will Wade's not used to losing very much, right? When you look at the last couple of years of his career, I mean, he's somebody who is accustomed. It's not supposed to take a lot of time for Will Wade to implement what he does, and the fact that NC State spent the way they did on this roster, yeah, I think there were pretty lofty expectations, even considering that this is year 1 for a coach at a program. And yeah, I think it's about Auburn trying to find the right balance of. Mm-hmm. I mean, you go back to the Michigan loss and how disheartened Stephen Pearl was about the selfishness that he saw on the floor and the fact that the team wasn't sharing the ball enough and guys were probably looking for their own shot too much. Yet now we move a week later and you have a team that was maybe too eager to share the ball and set up their teammates and tried things that
overpassing
were
sure.
overpassing and trying ill-advised passes in order to get each other involved. And like that's a it's almost like an overcorrection, right? And yes, there's a big win over St. John's sandwiched in between these two games.
But what happened in that game? First half they turned it over a lot,
Right.
especially in that run, and then in the second half they're excellent with the ball in their hands, and they put up one of the best halves of offensive basketball anybody's going to ever do against a Rick Pitino defense.
And look, between the two, like if you can choose which problem to have, right? A team that doesn't have, where the players don't want to share the ball and everybody's looking to play 1-on-5 or everyone's trying to do it themselves versus a team that's too eager to share the ball. I feel like I'd rather have, if we're trying to solve a problem over 20-something games, I'd rather have the team that's too eager to share the ball with each other, because at least they seem to trust their teammates and they seem to buy into the concept of playing together. But there are still some pitfalls to playing like that if it's too loose. And I think the thought that Auburn was, there were some head scratchers, right? There were some puzzling turnovers in that mix, and there were also some highlight reel passes, right? I mean that's going to happen too. But there were moments when it felt like Auburn wasn't doing enough to take care of the ball, and any college basketball coach, worth his salt, and certainly Stephen Pearl will tell you it's very difficult to win with a team that's seemingly not valuing possessions and not taking care of the ball. And for Auburn to do enough to win in a game where that was the problem, or one of the biggest problems, they still showed some mettle. They still showed some. So, they still showed some good stuff out there. But you're right. That's something that, like, Stephen was reacting in the post-game press conference like it was a loss, because I think he was sending the message that this will result in losses down the road if it continues to happen, even though you won tonight.
I'll take the first two, and then we can give you the last two. So because Auburn won, or the reason why Auburn won, Keyshawn Hall and Kevin Overton together, 57 points, 17 of 27 from the field, 11 of 16 from deep.
Now I think
they also had 19 rebounds.
I think they deserve their own separate observe fours here.
Okay,
we can lump them together for now and see how long it takes.
Yeah, I mean, I think with let's start with Kevin Overton. Yes, I mean Auburn has good shot making in this game, and they got good looks because when they took care of the ball, NC State was just going to give you good looks. Like that's what they do. Like they've struggled defending, especially on the perimeter, to start the season. Kevin Overton, though, he had a couple of clunkers in Vegas to start his time there, and he told the team before the St. John's game, hey, I'm not going to do that again. I've been bad. I'm going to turn around. He apparently also has a big part in the halftime speech in the locker room that turns them around at Auburn and gets that comeback win over St. John's. And in this game, 29 points, 8 of 13, 6 of 9 from deep. He goes 7 of 7 from the line, 9 points, career high for him. He's killing people in the reverse scrunches for the holiday season. This was KO, like, elite level basketball. You're not going to get this every night from him. But the fact that a guy that, at best is your third or fourth option with your starting lineup, if he's got this in his bag, if he's got that kind of ceiling available, it changes so much. And you could tell, we talked to him on Tuesday before this game. He's playing Darian Williams, his old teammate at Texas Tech. Darian Williams, probably the best player that moved to the portal. It's either him or Yax at Michigan. One of the best all-around players in college basketball. How about this? KO, 29 points. Darian Williams, 11. He goes 4 of 11 from the field and 1 of 5 from deep. He showed out in this game and did everything he needed to do really, really well. Didn't get off the floor in the second half, him and Keyshawn Hall, because it's just like he's hitting shots, Dan, that he's hitting heat checks.
Second game in a row where he plays the entire second half, right? Because that was also true. That was also true in St. John's. So I mean, this is a guy who's
some of these are tough buckets he hits. Like late in the shot clock, there's an early step back that's just crazy to even attempt, and he pulls it.
No, the thought that I don't know when Auburn signed Kevin Overton, I mean, there was the belief that you were going to get perimeter defense because you looked and this guy had played at Texas Tech, and when Bruce signed him, he was really excited about. I mean, you're trying to make up for the loss of Denver Jones and Chad at that point, and so to go get Kevin Overton to bolster that made sense. But no, this guy has real offensive game and showed it, in the St. John's game by going to the basket as often as he did. I mean, he was a big reason Auburn had those points in the paint against St. John's, and then he's showing his ability to hit from range, among other things, in this game tonight. And the last two games you've seen from Kevin Overton, I mean, it's really, really high level stuff, and it's it's. I wonder if people really knew, like, that's what you were getting when Auburn signed him.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think when Auburn got him, it was like, oh, well, his numbers weren't great at Texas Tech because, he had an inconsistent role that year as a two-guard spot. But I remember doing the breakdown of him when Auburn got him, and I remember just keep going back to, this dude has a few games where he gets in these flurries where it's just explosive offensive potential, and you see it sustained in this game. Taking advantage
and like Denver, right? I mean, this is a guy who maybe he had been, like, his role was changing, and the thought that this guy could be a third or fourth option on the court at times, because you've got to worry about Auburn's posts and you've got to worry about Tahad. Like, he's going to get some favorable looks, and lately he has been cashing those in.
Yeah, it's really impressive. And then on the other side, we'll talk. Auburn's defense plays really well in this game. NC State season lows in 2-point field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage, free throw rate, and points. This was a top 10 KenPom offense team heading into the game. How about this? Auburn knocks them all the way down to 17th in offensive efficiency on the strength of this game alone. They were in the top 10 before then. Kevin Overton's huge in that regard, because in addition to him scoring and hitting those shots, he's playing physically on the perimeter. NC State only really has one guard go off. Quadir Copeland's really good, especially when he can knock down shots. Yeah, Trey Holloman hit some threes in this game, but it wasn't consistent and efficient. There were long stretches of this game where NC State just wasn't, their shots were not falling at all.
They're like an Eric Musselman Arkansas team, right? Where they've got a couple of guys you'd really want. It feels like the connective tissue and the dirty work that you need to, like, win in major conference games may still be, they may still be searching for some of that.
They're relying on Van Allen Lubin to do a lot of that, and I've never really fully seen it with him. Like, at this level, I mean, Auburn's done well against him over the years, and did well against him this game tonight. But, like,
and almost signed him, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a portal guy at least once for them. But Dan, like, Overton has really good defense in this game. NC State's two best shooters go 2 of 10 from deep in this one. Williams and McNeil. He plays a big part in that, and also 9 rebounds from your two guard. That's just being committed to playing well. And I think Auburn's got several guys on this team who fit this bill. Tahad's definitely one of these guys that when one side of the ball is flowing for him, the other side's going to follow as well. And I think, Tahad, we'll get to Tahad at some point, where I think it's just his offense at home has just been struggling, but he's still locking in on defense. KO, though, I think that Michigan game and that Oregon game, you saw both ends of the floor. He just wasn't really clicking. These last couple of games, it is two-way impact, because he's a guy that when he starts hitting those shots and he gets that confidence, or he's locking dudes up, it just feeds back and forth, back and forth. That's a microcosm of the team as a whole. But, he was huge in this game. 29 points are great, but, like, the other stuff in this game as well is why Auburn won. I mean, they hold NC State's offense down, and he was a key part of it out on the perimeter.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great story to talk about, like, the speech he gave to the team and his like, it sounds good, but it's like, what are the results? And the results are, since the start of the St. John's game, like, a switch has flipped, and he has been, for 2 games now, a different player than he was at the beginning of the season for Auburn, and I'm really curious to see how long the hot streak goes. what he can do to influence games. Because I really like Kevin Overton. I do. I think this is a guy who he is just willing to do whatever it takes to win basketball games, whether it's play really difficult defense for extended stretches, whether it's provide offense however he can in the half court, no turnovers, right? Mention that too, right? I mean, Kevin Overton in a game where that was the biggest problem.
Yeah, he led the team in minutes and was second in usage and had 0 turnovers. Like that. That's massive. Yep. That is absolutely massive. So I think you're getting that mature. He's a third-year guy. You're getting that mature guard that you need. And if he has that kind of he's not going to shoot like that every game. He's not going to play teams like NC State every game on defense. But if he's got that ceiling where if he can see it go, if he can see it, he can hit it. It's going to do a lot. All right. Keyshawn
Hall, a solid second topic of discussion because Keyshawn Hall, just doing his Keyshawn Hall thing, right? It's just another game where 20 points, really difficult matchup in the half court. I mean, he can score from anywhere. That turnaround three, where he doesn't even he does. I mean he doesn't have time to aim.
It's one of the dumbest, how did that go in shots I've ever seen. A dumb complimentary. I mean, he can hit it, but
that's muscle memory. That's muscle memory because you got to practice. I mean, because he did not have time to look at the basket.
No, that's just a bucket getter getting buckets, man. Just point blank. Keyshawn Hall, man, his scoring ability. And, I think the other thing with him, too, is just it's not all coming at the free throw line. This was just 5 in this game. Early in the year, he was really getting to the line a ton, and he still is getting into it. But, Dan, he's shooting 47% from deep right now. 47% from deep on 4 attempts per game. He is filling it up, man. He is hitting a rhythm where if he has an open look and the ball leaves his hands, you're just expecting it to go in, or he's going to get downhill and make something happen with it because he's a matchup problem. He's a matchup nightmare. There's a ton of versatility in those wing forward combos on that NC State team. They had no answer for him on defense. And when Overton got more and more attention because he was going nuclear in this game, it's oh wait, you're having to put more attention. That takes less. That takes stuff away from the number one scorer, in the SEC right now. Absurd.
And Keyshawn Hall, I mean his ability to do other things. You can't overplay the 3-point shot because if you're right there, the 3-point shot, he can score in the mid range. He can go to the basket. He can pass. So I mean, having that full. That full set of tools that he's got to score the basketball, it just makes it. I mean, when the 3-point shot is falling like this, and you have to be careful not to foul him because he can draw fouls at an extremely high level, and he can hit at the free throw line at a high rate. So it's when he's hitting from the outside and he's willing to shoot from there, I don't know what you do as a defender because it's. If you're too tight with him I guess you gotta work real hard on denying him the ball in the first place because once he gets it,
and you gotta just strip and rip and try to get turnovers, which he had turnovers in this game. He had some way too complicated passes that didn't need to happen. By the way, he is second in the SEC in scoring right now because Josh Hubbard just had another big game, but he is leading in PER. He's leading in offensive win shares, second in overall win shares. This dude is money in the bank right now. But yeah, you're right. I think he's so tough to slow down that defenses, especially ones that are as limited as NC State's it can just feel like an avalanche on you. And it's so rare to have 2 of those guys going like that at the same time. This was the first time Auburn had 2 guys score 25 or more in the same game since Bryce and Jared did it in Maui against Xavier, right? So, I mean, and
there have been some pretty good combos, right? There have been some pretty good duos. Right? Some solid NBA Jam teams have come through Auburn in the last 7-8 seasons.
The other thing I think is like the turnovers aren't great. He's still got to improve on defense. Kevin Overton does as well. He's still got work to do on the defensive end. And the turnover rate is, I mean, he's a guy that he gets the ball a lot and people are going after him hard. He's just got to do a better job of being smarter with it because the turnover rate's, higher than you want it to be. But how about this? 10 defensive rebounds in this game. He gets a double-double. Like, on ball, one-on-one defender, post defender, all that, that's not his strength. That's not the strength of his game. But if you're rebounding in that clip and scoring at that clip, you can more than make up for the fact that you might not be, Isaac Okoro or, Dylan Cardwell as a defender. And so I thought you saw Keyshawn Hall really do a good job of maximizing his strengths, minimizing his weaknesses in this game. And that's what you got to do. There are no perfect basketball players. Even the best in the country right now have issues, like have things they got to work on. And I thought in this game you saw Auburn do a really, really good job of just letting Keyshawn be Keyshawn.
Third point. Do you want to get to?
I think
is that 1 point? Is that one? That's one.
We're gonna say. Let's do one more. Let's do. Okay, so we've had the turnovers, we've had KO, and we have Key. Because I agree with you, these guys deserve their own spot. So give me a fourth spot. There's a couple of options you can go here. I'm interested to see where you go.
I mean, you mentioned discussing Tahad and his play at home. I still don't really find myself all that concerned with Todd Pettiford. With the belief that he's going to iron things out and just
how about 4 blocks in this game
and 4 was it 4 first half blocks?
He has more blocks in 9 games than he had all of last season.
Yeah, I mean his willingness to step up on the defensive end. I mean, I think there are some other players you could talk about too. I really like Sway. Like, I really like Sebastian Williams Adams.
Let's talk Sway because I talked about Pettiford in the observations about his, and it's Stephen Pearl joke. They got to figure out a way to get him going at home. Maybe it's not a quad 1 versus non-quad 1 thing, or quality games versus non-quality games. Maybe it's a home road thing. I will contend real quick. Number one, Todd Pettiford had some really good home games last season. So it's not like he's never been good in Neville Arena. But it's something that they gotta address. Number 2, there's that belief that, like, does he get up for this, or does he feed off the crowd more? Is he locked in? Tell you, just speaking from being with this team as close as I've been, like, this dude works hard and is as locked in and laser focused as anybody on this team, and was down on himself after the way he played last night. So it's like, it might not be. I think there's a narrative out there that's like, oh, it's just kind of no big deal for him. He's a guy who's getting his money and he's going to get his points eventually.
Oh, I think he seems unflappable, right? I would hope people don't think it's indifference, where it's like, oh, he doesn't.
Right. Yeah. I've heard some people say that. I've heard some fans say that, and I think that's too convenient of a narrative based on what I've seen from Tahad. This dude's a leader. And
it also seems to, like, that would also forget he's got a lot riding on this season, right? Like, Tahad Pettiford has, it's not to say his entire future depends on what he does this year, because that's hyperbole. That's blown it out of proportion. But Tahad Pettiford absolutely, knows, he's got scouts watching every game. He's got
Mike Dunleavy was there. He's got GM for the Warriors.
Yeah, Mike Dunleavy, and former NBA lottery pick. Long time former Duke great. Mike Dunleavy Jr. was in the house. The thought that, like, before the Warriors thought they were getting Yao Ming and got Mike Dunleavy Jr. in that draft. 25 years ago. I think
I will say also, going back to Tahad, 4 of his next 5 games are away from home, so you might be able to get a little bit. The one they play back is between Christmas and New Year's. They play Queens in the middle of the night, so I wouldn't expect a flurry from him in that game.
And I still think, often with Tahad, it's like, well, did his shots go in? And that sort of just decides whether or not he had a good game or not, right? Where it's like,
okay. No, he did turn the ball over. I did think he looked good on defense for the most part in this game, though.
But it's like, I mean, and if the thing with Tahad is like it's one thing if the problem is the shots he's taking, right? Like, okay, well, you need to work harder for better looks, or you need to stop settling for long jumpers. That's one thing.
I still don't take that with him.
No, I don't think so either. And so it's like, well, just telling him, hey, like, shoot better. Well, that's not gonna. That's not.
No, that guy sits up near the near press row.
That's not helpful, right? Like that's not gonna. I mean, I think it'll come. Like I'm not all that worried.
Right. I think it's easy to play the results. He's got to shoot better, obviously, but he's just came off of an incredible tear in Vegas, and like I don't think anybody's gonna be surprised if he steps up again against Arizona and Purdue. The turnovers were something that he's got to do a better job of because he was trying to do too much. Okay, so that was kind of a mini point, but Sway, let's talk Sebastian Williams-Adams.
And you can work some Jovic in here if you want to.
I'll just say
I almost guessed a Phil Collins song for Wings in honor of Phil Jovic.
The thing with Philip, the thing is, continuing to slow down on offense. He only had one turnover, and I think it was early. 5 boards, 2 blocks. I think his defense has got to tighten up, especially in one-on-one situations. But he's still new. He's transitioning. I think he's starting to slow down on offense, where you're seeing that. It's good. Sway though, man. I mean, it's 7 points. Didn't miss a shot again. 1 of 2 from the line. 4 assists. Like I said, he tightened up his turnovers after that first half. A block and 2 steals. He's fearless on the defensive end. And I thought you saw in this game a lot more, Dan. Like he gets going in transition, and it's like I don't think it's kind of like the Elijah Freeman effect as well, where it's like I think the other team does not realize what he can do. Like the athleticism's that good, it's that strong. He had some plays where he put his head down and got to the basket, and it was pretty. Or he got his head down and created some. Doubled in the post, he does that Janai Broom hook pass to the corner for one of Keyshawn Hall's corner threes in the second half. I mean, really, really impressive. And he's going to have his hands full. He's going to play a lot. He's one of those guys that he'll be out there for 15 straight minutes and you don't even blink. He's going to have his hands full on Saturday against Koa Pete and those guys up front for Arizona. But Dan, I even in the games where he doesn't rack up a ton of stats, you just walk away very, very impressed with Sway.
Yeah, I mean, it's a similar deal in the sense that this is a guy playing high school basketball last year, so like that's an adjustment too. But it's not the same thing that we're talking about with Phil and with Sway. This guy, I wondered how much he was going to be able to help on a team with so many, like not just veterans, but guys who had played a ton of college basketball. And Sway fits right in. It reminds me a little bit of Tahad last year, where we were talking about like how's Tahad going to fit in with all these seniors as a true freshman, and he slotted right in, and you didn't really miss a beat when he was the one out there. And with Sway to be able to knuckle up against like some of the dudes that he's had to face already in his college basketball career.
I mean, it was him and Darian Williams a lot.
Yeah.
Darian Williams is one of the best players in college basketball.
Like I like that this guy. I mean, and you saw it to your credit. Like you noticed it pretty early. Pretty soon after he got to campus. He handles himself so much differently than a freshman usually does. You were saying
that's taking nothing away from. I thought Caden Magwood had some good moments in this game. Defensively, some not great moments at all. But like I thought he handles himself just so well. And like I don't think it's a stretch to say, Dan, we're 9 games into the season. He's their best front court defender. Mm-hmm. And he might be pound for pound their best defender.
And for a freshman to be able to hold his own, and in this era of college basketball where everybody is squeezing every drop of eligibility out of their careers, and you're facing 4th and 5th year seniors in the paint, for Sebastian to be able to hold his own like this 9 games into his career, you're right. I mean, you mentioned that it was gonna be tough to keep him in the garage the whole season, and he's vrooming his engine right now.
Yeah, it's really impressive. One more final note before we move on to football. it's a tough break right now with what's going on in the backcourt with their depth. No Abdul Bashir in this game. He didn't dress out again.
Didn't play a ton in Vegas either.
Didn't play
right?
a ton in Vegas.
It's illness. Illness is seems to be the reason that there's
no Simon Walker. Yeah. I will remind if you see some stuff you saw it with Keyshawn Murphy didn't play a ton in this game and didn't play very well when he did in terms of his production. You got to keep in mind there was some sickness going around the team this week. Guys missed practice time, so if it looked a little off, I'm not going to sit here and name names because I don't even know all the names that missed time throughout practice, but there's some of that. The one thing this team really needs, I think, is to find somebody who can give you those extra minutes at the 2 behind Kevin Overton, and help out that back. And it's could it be Bashir if he gets fully going? Could it be Simon Walker? I'll be honest, I don't see it with Blake Michalek, and I haven't seen it. Right, I think this is a guy who gets praised for what he does in practice, and he was an awesome scout team player. Minus 11 in 2 minutes in this game was, it was just, it was disastrous. If Caden Magwood, I think, can step up on defense, because he had some tough moments on defense in that second half against NC State, he could be a guy that could do some more of that as well. They just got to find that. That's the missing piece, I think, from this team. Where you're if you can get that, if you can develop that at this point, and we're talking 10, 15 minutes a game. For who can provide you that. You just get a little bit deeper. You're in it for the longer haul, and I think just a combination of factors: Walker's injury, Bashir's illness and absence, slow start to his. Caden Magwood still trying to get going, maybe potentially playing multiple positions. That's something they got to sort out.
The plan cannot be. It feels unsustainable for the plan to be. Well, Tahad and Kevin Overton are going to play every minute of the second half, and that's how things are.
I think K-Mag is somebody who can give you enough minutes at the backup at the 1. But if you can earn some more minutes, say if you're going to play Tahad 30, 32, 34 minutes a night, and you feel like Caden should get more than that, there's that.
How much of Tahad and
it's just going to be defense. All these guys, I'm talking every single one of these guys. Magwood, Walker, Bashir, Michalek, every one of those guys is defense. You can't be a liability on defense out there, and I think you saw some of that last night.
We wondered going into the season how much you would see Tahad and Caden on the floor together at the same time, because that's a small backcourt. If you roll with those two, I
think Tahad stepped up his game on defense. I think he's got to get more from Caden. And look, I think there's potential for guys like Walker or Bashir, Michalek even to kind of get in that point.
But I would think right now, for Arizona, brace for Tahad and Kevin to play.
Yep.
A ton of minutes in the second half, because that's been what we've seen lately, and I mean someone else has to make the argument in order to change that plan.
Mm-hmm. But all in all, good win, 10-point win, a lot to work on, a lot to improve on. All offensive execution has to improve. Auburn, though, back-to-back games where they've held really good offenses down on defense. So I think you're seeing some real progress on the defensive end. You know what the ceiling of this offense is. They just got to do it on a more consistent basis. But that's some of playing with a young team at this point in the early season. All right, Dan, let's switch to football. Alex Golish, we talk about how busy we are. Alex Golish has been 10 times busier than us at this point, this week. I mean, what a whirlwind. This is day 5 of him as the head coach at Auburn.
He coached a game on Saturday for USF, right?
Saturday night. It was a later game for them.
I remember, Saturday night I was at the roulette table, right? And it's I was at the wheel, and it's I can put together a lot of what, and I feel like I've been kind of busy. For me, I've been kind of busy these last couple of days. It is it's a different life than Alex Golish had 5-6 days ago. It's night and day.
All right, let's Dan, let's. There's so many different directions we can go with this because there's a lot to talk about from the football side. I think let's start with maybe the newsiest thing, which was the retention of DJ Durkin as Auburn's defensive coordinator. Guys, this wasn't a slam dunk. This was not something that was guaranteed to happen. On Monday, I'd kind of heard this might not happen.
I left the press conference Monday after hearing his answer to Rosie's question, right? Like, I left the press conference Monday thinking, ooh, he's laying the groundwork. You know, he's setting the table for DJ Durkin not to come back. And over the next day or two, you know, I was told things were sort of breaking in the other direction, and then you end up getting the news that the DJ Durkin is in fact enlisting to be the defensive coordinator for Alex Golesh.
And here's the thing for DJ Durkin, this is a guy who was a finalist for this job, right? And to go from thinking you had a real shot to be the head coach to not getting it and now being asked to stay, that's something that emotionally you have to take into account. Now, I will say this. DJ Durkin's getting paid handsomely to stay at Auburn. And, you know, he's going to be one of the highest paid defense coordinators in college football next season. This is a good fit for him. I have heard that he really wanted to keep his family in Auburn. I mean, they recently built a house, I believe, and have been in the process of moving into it. Like, you don't want to go and reset again. And I get it. LSU is going to keep Blake Baker. I guess Blake Baker may be a candidate for the Tulane permanent job, but for Auburn to kind of lock down that they have a guy in DJ Durkin as their defensive coordinator, I think it's a win-win situation for Auburn, right? But it wasn't like cut and dry. The decision had to come down to Durkin, and we could talk look, player retention, you know, keeping some of those young guys on defense together. That's a good bonus for Auburn to have, right? As we've said, nobody's irreplaceable on a team that's had 5 straight losing seasons and only won one SEC game last year. But it helps. It definitely helps. I think Auburn was able to make some more moves on signing day, especially on the defensive side of the ball, because you had Durkin, because you had and from the sound of it, Vontrell King-Williams, who I thought has done a phenomenal job in his 2 seasons as Auburn's defensive line coach, is being retained. They're still finalizing what this whole staff looks like, but you got some of those early wins from keeping Durkin. And like, it's a long-term move. You don't want to do it in the immediate. Like, you don't want to just grade, keeping DJ Durkin was good because look at player X, Y, and Z. That's a short-sighted view of things. However, one of the things is you do get those benefits right now. And I also we'll get into this here in a second, Dan. I think DJ Durkin really fits what Alex Golesh wants to do. With this football team.
Yeah, without knowing like the market for DJ Durkin's services, right? Like if he were a head coaching candidate, with all the different jobs opening up this cycle, even at the mid-major level, like if somebody was out there thinking DJ Durkin was the answer, that I think it would be tougher to expect him to like amid everything you just said,
right?
Like, it would be tougher to expect him to stay and choose Auburn over a situation like that. If the market for him sort of leaned towards defensive coordinator jobs next year, I could see how DJ Durkin is better off continuing to coach the defense he helped build, and especially if he can help retain some of the key freshmen and sophomores that figure to be important pieces of next year's defense. I think DJ Durkin could better help his own market. Like, if the goal is to be a head coach again someday, I think he could help himself with another strong year at Auburn more than he would by up and moving to another school and trying to start over to an extent. Even a place with resources, right? Like if he went to another, to a place that figures to be a top 10, top 15 school as a defensive coordinator, I still wonder, like, there's a transition, there's implementing what you do, there are unknowns. The grass isn't always greener. Like, I think the thought that if DJ Durkin can, not only are there personal ties to the community and the thought that he's entrenched his family here to an extent, but also, if he wants to be a head coach again someday, like, continuing to put a high level defense on the field at Auburn, I think would be like, I think that's the best way forward for him to one day, get that job that he's, if that's the goal, and if he's content being one of the nation's best defensive coordinators,
not a bad gig.
It seems like, and there's attachment and support from the fans that you probably wouldn't have going anywhere else in college football because of what he's put on the field the last 2 years and the way the team responded when he was made the head coach. Like there's still, there's still respect and support from the Auburn fan base by and large that you wonder if he would have that, that credit somewhere else if he were to take another job in college football. Like, of course, wouldn't blame him at all for making any decision here, like you said, after not getting the head coaching job. But I see a lot of upside for DJ Durkin in staying with Auburn, and I think especially with a head coach who's got more of an offensive reputation, right? Like if this were, I mean, you can use John Sumrall if you want, but if Auburn had hired somebody who had made his bones on the defensive side of the ball, there is the possibility of conflict, right? There's the greater possibility of, okay, well, DJ could see it one way and the head coach could see it another, and what do you do then? Because some of the players might know DJ better than they know the head coach, right? Mm-hmm. So it's, I mean, it could get messy, and it feels like this is a cleaner situation and a situation where DJ's welcome back, and I think the reaction to the news and how popular the news was that DJ came back sort of proves the point that, if he wants to continue his career as a defensive coordinator, I don't know if there's a better spot to do it for DJ Durkin than Auburn.
And again, I think what Alex Golesh is trying to build at Auburn, what we heard from him in the press conference, what we know about him, DJ Durkin's a really good defensive coordinator for that. If you want to be aggressive, force takeaways, get into the backfield, create explosives, play violently, Golesh says he wanted to be with the most violent frickin' team on every Saturday. Dude, DJ Durkin's that type of defensive coordinator. That's the stuff he preaches. And they got some shared background. They're both Ohio guys. They've run in the same circles in the past coming up as coaches. I like the move. I really do. I think that's, I think Auburn wouldn't have been in trouble by any means if Durkin would have left, but I do think it sets yourself up to have some really good success on defense in year one under Alex Golesh. And then if Golesh can do the Golesh thing on offense in year one, you've got a pretty good setup for some early success. Again, the schedule is brutal, and we don't know what this roster looks like. This is so much projection. But if the goal in year one, which I think it should be for Auburn, which is just get a winning season and end this streak of this losing skid, you probably have a better chance of doing that with DJ Durkin as your defense coordinator than without him. And so I think it's a good move, and I'll be very interested to see the effects of that kind of moving forward. Speaking of keeping Durkin, Auburn, National Signing Day, they close pretty well considering they were in a really bad spot for a while. They finished National Signing Day on Wednesday 37th in the country in the rankings. I believe it's like second or third from the bottom in the SEC. They're not last. They were way down there to start the day, and they were they were dead last in the SEC, but they were able to make some moves.
Weren't they flirting with like outside the top 100?
Yes.
When the day started, like,
and if you think that could be bad, I think just look at what Penn State's doing right now.
Yeah, you got to keep scrolling down that list to find Penn State.
So, but you end up getting so Durkin stays, and look, Braylon Womack is going to Mississippi State. He ended up staying over there with that commitment flipping. I've heard he is getting paid handsomely. And several of those guys in that Mississippi State class are these in-state guys that are able to keep home. That's the way they want to build it. Makes a ton of sense for Mississippi State. He ends up staying there. great player. Auburn would have loved to have him, but it's not the end of the world, right? I think the big thing is here, Dan. You talk about the 4 stars, and there's not a ton of them, but like the 4 stars that Auburn signed, looking at the 247 rankings on Wednesday. They keep Jacquez Wilkes in the boat. That's a top 100 player, top 70 player in the country. He's an incredible talent, linebacker, edge rusher guy. Shadarius Tootle back in the class and stays with the coaching change. They flip Corey Wells, a Mississippi defensive lineman who's a top 200 player in the country. They flip him from Texas, and then they pick up some other guys. They keep the linebacker Goon, Adam Balogun Ali from Florida, who's apparently a really, really big Durkin guy in terms of evaluation. They keep a lot of those defensive guys, sign a couple more, get some brothers in there of other guys to fill out this class.
When Alex Golish talked about, and look, it was not an issue. This part, I don't think, was much of an issue with Hugh Freeze as far as, like, Alex Golish emphasized the importance of recruiting regionally. I thought Hugh Freeze did a pretty good job of getting a lot of the players you wanted from the immediate regional area to come stay home and stay at Auburn. But it's important for Auburn's coach to do that because it's very difficult to win at Auburn if you're not getting your share of the guys from that 250-mile radius. And one thing that welcomed me, he kept talking about the 250 miles, and if you check a map, like, that gets you the Florida Panhandle too. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that's talking about recruiting, and we've mentioned it on the show before. I mean, not just because I'm 850, to my bones, but also, like, just there's a lot of really good football being played between Tallahassee and Mobile. And
South Alabama, Southwest Georgia, and North Florida have come a long way in terms of the talent in football.
And so to see, I think that's an area South Florida recruited and did well with, going into Panama City, going into Fort
familiar
Beach,
with his time here
Pensacola.
at Tennessee, recruiting that area as well. Yeah, I do think is a really good. And for the Golish side on signing day, the USF guys, I mean, you're able to sign a lot of guys you want to keep. You did lose the quarterback to Penn State, although I've heard that was a very interesting situation.
So congratulations to Penn State they got one.
They needed somebody. But you flip Deshaun Spencer, you flip Brian Williams from Alabama. These are guys that USF was already recruiting. DeMarcus Broughton, you flip him from Mary Montgomery. He's a really good tight end in that class, 6'5" guy. Picked up some offensive linemen. I didn't mention Tavian Branch, who they got, who I believe was a Penn State guy at one point. Big defensive lineman. They signed him on Thursday. He did not sign. The big one, they're going to try to close the deal with Jace Matthews. Mm-hmm. And he's supposed to be signing, I believe, on Friday. There's going to be hard fights to flip him. He's a top 90 player in this class, right outside the top 10 in terms of receivers. That one's going to be a fight. If Auburn's able to close the deal with him with this new offensive staff, I think you do backflips because that's a really big time pickup. But yeah, Dan, this class was never going to be great, and I think Auburn's made the best out of the situation considering the way the signing period moved up, the coaching changes, how all that looked. Look, Auburn's going to have to do work in recruiting moving forward to, move on from, this drop in class quality compared to what you had been going. There's no way around that. However, if you hit the transfer portal really, really hard these first couple seasons, you can mask a lot of that and keep building moving forward. So I think Auburn made the best out of a tough situation. I will also remind people that when Auburn fired Hugh Freeze, they had a small class that was ranked, I believe it was 38th, and they're currently 37th. So it wasn't like the recruiting guy was doing really well in recruiting in this cycle. We know what happened in the summer and the August 1st stuff and the NIL thing and the rev sharing, all that. Auburn, this 2026 class is always going to be a step back. I think they made the most of making the situation after moving on from Hugh Freeze. Dan, before we go back to basketball for a quick Arizona preview, I want to hear I wrote a lot on Monday, and my observations from takeaways from Alex Golish's his introductory presser at Auburn. I'm interested to hear kind of your take on him. I have my own opinions, but what stood out to you from that? Because since we haven't done a podcast since he's talked,
I thought he hit the right notes, right? Like I thought he had a lot of the right answers to these questions. I mean, it didn't seem he didn't seem overwhelmed in the way that a South Florida coach or a coach from a mid-major making the jump to the SEC. You might worry about, is he going to be? Are the lights going to be too bright, right? And you didn't pick up on that with Alex Golish. I mean, this is a guy who, and I imagine some of that comes from walking into Knoxville with that staff from UCF and helping rebuild a Tennessee program that was in dire straits when they got there. So I mean, this job shouldn't seem too big to for Alex Golish, and the fact that he's got someone like Cody Burns with him who knows, he's intimately familiar with a lot of the ins and outs of the Auburn football program. Like I think this is like it would. I don't think I was expecting him to be uncomfortable, but I was struck by how comfortable he seemed, taking that microphone and speaking the language that I think a lot of Auburn folks wanted to hear.
My big thing with him, Dan, is I think he has a lot of what Auburn needs right now. And I don't know how it's going to turn out on the field, right? Every coaching hire is a roll of the dice. Even a sure thing can backfire.
I keep saying, how do you know if you're getting Kirby Smart or Will Muschamp, right? Like, how do you know if you're getting an even better, a more pertinent example would be, like, what are the things that made Josh Heupel a success leaving UCF that Scott Frost couldn't recapture leaving UCF, right? I mean, they both were very successful.
Is he Josh Heupel or is he Billy Napier? I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. We will find out in this journey over these next few years. But what I do think is this. He is a guy that's got a lot of fire to him. He is a workhorse. Everything I've heard about him from his time at Tennessee to his time at South Florida and throughout his career is that this dude will bust his tail everywhere, around the clock. And he talks so much about how having everything sorted out and down to the minute, and how crucial the first week is and the first few months on his. Auburn needs that. Auburn needs this kind of worker, because here's the bottom line. Auburn's got to work to get out of where they are, right? And we saw that just recruiting great talent alone isn't going to turn Auburn magically into, we recruited top 10, top 15 classes. We're going to be a top 10, top 15 team. No, it takes more than that. It takes more than that on Saturdays. It takes more than that during the week. It takes more than that in the offseason. And I think this dude's going to really, really work hard to get Auburn into that position as best as he can. There will be uncertainties. There will be transitions. There will be things that don't go well. He's never done this at this level. I would argue even if you have done this at this level, it still doesn't always work out. Look at what we just saw with Hugh Freeze. But Auburn needs offense, like desperately needs offense. And they need a dude who's going to work really, really hard and wants to be here and wants to succeed here. And I think he checks those boxes a ton. I thought John Summerall, Dan, would be a really great hire for Auburn. And obviously Summerall chose Florida. He ends up going there. There's a lot of moving parts to that. I think Golish is as close as you can get. Yeah. It's offense, but it's a lot of the stuff that you liked about him with some more proven work as an SEC. As what his stuff has worked in the SEC on offense, right? And I think that's a big thing. And he's not going to call the offense, which I know Auburn fans are happy to see, because they know the whole thing about how tough it is to be a play caller and be a championship contender, in this day and age. But I don't know. I get the passion and the fire and the work, and also just the he's going to do some stuff different on offense, and Auburn needs that. Like, when Auburn works, that's some of the stuff of what they're doing. He's not Pat Dye, but he might be more like Gus Malzahn.
And you look at Gus Malzahn, like, what had Gus Malzahn been in the 4 or 5 seasons before Auburn hired him, right? He'd been a highly successful SEC assistant who would become a highly successful mid-major head coach, right? What was Lane Kiffin when Ole Miss hired him? Like, what were the previous 4 or 5 years for Lane Kiffin before he got the Ole Miss job? He'd been a highly successful coordinator for Nick Saban, who showed up at a mid-major in Florida that was struggling and turned them into a winner immediately, and then got the Ole Miss job, sort of, carried that momentum from.
And it's like, yes, Kiffin had the USC and the Tennessee and the NFL experience, but like, he wasn't getting hired because of that.
No, he'd been fired on the tarmac by USC's athletic director because the team quit on him. And if for those of you who are too young, the Al Davis press conference firing Lane Kiffin is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. So, I mean, no, I don't think Ole Miss was thinking about Southern Cal or Tennessee or Oakland when they hired Lane Kiffin. They were looking at what he had been in the immediate, like, what were you in the last? Because really, when you're talking about a college football coach, do you really want to go back a decade? Do you really want to go back 2 decades and assume that's what you're getting today with that coach? Or do you need to look at the last 4 or 5 seasons, the recent? Do you need to weigh the last couple of years more heavily than everything else? I mean, Josh Heupel. Like, what had Josh Heupel been when Tennessee hired him? He was a successful SEC offensive coordinator who went to a struggling, well, they weren't struggling as much. Scott Frost had them winning, but they were, but it's a tough place to continue to maintain, and he kept them winning and then turned that into the Tennessee job. So it's
which is what Auburn needs right now. They need that spark. They need that instant type of impact. And my last thing I'll say on this with Golesh is I think he's got a lot of that underdog mentality that Auburn has to have. Because guess what? Even in the best of times, even if you go all out in recruiting, you're still going to be behind the Alabamas and Georgias and LSUs of the world. You just are. You just are. That is the nature of this beast. And now Texas and Oklahoma are in the league, and A&M's on the rise, and Florida's always Florida, like Tennessee. Like, you have to do something to say that, like, you're not going to have the best team on the field every single Saturday, right? What can you do to overcome that? And I think he showed that at South Florida. I think he showed that early, in his time at Tennessee.
Beating Florida as South Florida's head coach, even in a year where Florida's struggling. You're never going to have better players at South Florida than Florida.
They went from a 1-win team to beating Florida in the Swamp 3 years later. Okay, like that's a pretty remarkable turnaround. And I think when Auburn is at its best, it is the ultra underdog, and that's just a fact of life. And you can win a championship with that. You can win championships with that. Ask Pat Dye, ask Gene Chizik, ask Tommy Tuberville, ask Gus Malzahn. And so if you have some of that, even if the look is different, but you got that DNA at your core, you're going to set yourself up. You're going to set yourself up to be pretty successful. And I think the other thing too, Dan, and we'll move on quickly. We'll just quickly talk about Arizona because we're running out of time. I think the other thing with Golesh is you've got a united fan base. Like, no one said, like, people may think, oh, we could have hired somebody else, or we should have hired somebody else, or, I don't know about this guy. But it's not like the last couple where it's like, huh? Or, ooh, I don't know about that.
There was nobody, as far as I can tell, there was nobody openly heckling him at the airport.
But even before that, I mean, it's just like, there's no baggage. There's no, can this guy do this in this conference? Because he has before. He hadn't done it as a head coach. But I just think Auburn's been struggling for 5 straight losing seasons. Worst stretch in the modern era for the program. You are at rock bottom for where you are. And to fight your way back out of it, it's going to take everybody coming together. And I think the fan base rallying around that and supporting that, knowing that, yes, next season is going to be tough. Auburn's going to have to fight like heck to make a bowl game next season and take steps forward. But I think they got a coach. I think they got a head coach who's building a staff that's going to have what it takes. to make a run at that. So we shall see. All right, real quickly, we will probably do a few minutes on this before we go, because we've recorded this before. I mean, I'm gonna have to leave here shortly to go talk to Stephen Pearl about Auburn playing Arizona. Dan, Arizona's the number 2 team in the country in the human polls, number 8 on Ken Palm. They are downright scary. They beat Florida by 6 on opening night. They beat your UCLA Bruins by 4 earlier this year. UCLA's having a decent start to the season. Went to UConn and won by 4, which is really tough. And they've blown the doors off of their paycheck opponents. They'll have not played. One interesting thing to me, I wonder how much this has an impact in this game. When Auburn plays Arizona on Saturday, they had not. It's December 6th. Arizona has not played a quality opponent since November 19th. So I wonder how much that kind of goes in advantage. But this team is as good as it gets. We saw Michigan go supernova. This Arizona team does it in a different way, but their ceiling is extremely high. 10th on offense, 12th on defense, 11th in offensive rebounding percentage. They don't take a ton of threes, but they hit them when they do. They've got great two-point offense, elite 2-point defense. They make you work for everything on both ends of the floor. They're the 7th tallest team in college basketball. And Tommy Lloyd, man, people overlook. Tommy Lloyd steps into that situation from Sean Miller, Arizona, and here's what he has done. 1 seed, 2 seed, 2 seed, 4 seed. Sweet 16 in 3 of those 4 years.
I mean, Arizona is like the quiet superpower.
Yes.
Right? Like, I feel like that's a team, like if you were to look at the last 30, 40 years of Arizona basketball, like they were one of the top 3 or 4 programs in the 90s, had some, the end of Lute Olson, was messy, and they didn't keep the, they had a couple of down years, but then Sean Miller shows up and they're winning conference championships. And
under Sean Miller, they go Elite 8, have one off year, Sweet 16, Elite 8, first round is a 6 seed, Sweet 16, 4 seed.
And even in one of those games, they lose to Buffalo, like in the first round, right? When a lot of people think they were like one of the top teams in the NCAA tournament in one of those seasons. Like Sean Miller has an early, maybe his best. The team with Ayton on it gets bounced really early
by Nate Oates in Buffalo.
That's right, the Nate Oates Buffalo Bulls. So I mean, it's like there are. I mean, Arizona's been awesome, and Arizona's about to play Alabama in the CM Newton Classic. I guess we got the Cam Newton Classic, right? Starting before that on Saturday. But no, this is a fantastic test for Auburn to face. I mean, look, by the time conference play starts, the fact that Auburn will have played Purdue, Arizona, and Michigan, who and
could
Houston,
be 1, 2, 3,
and Houston, who might
be 1, 2, 3, 4.
they might be the 4 of the 8.
Depending on how you feel about Duke.
Yeah, like 4 of the and UConn's really good, yeah. And I mean there's but like
this team beat UConn on the road.
This team beat UConn on the road, like 4 of the 7 or 8 best teams in college basketball potentially. Like that. That's what you.
How about this, Dan? I am 32 years old. Arizona has been to the Sweet 16 in more than half the years I have been alive.
Yes, like Arizona to the second weekend was a.
It's like what Gonzaga is now.
Yeah, or Houston. Right, like I mean, like some of the safest bets in all of college basketball to be good, and yeah, I mean, a guy who's Tommy's got it rolling, right, and for a guy who was I mean, if I have his resume right, he was Mark Few's right hand man for 2 decades, and turned that into getting to step into one of the best jobs in the sport, and he has done, like, you've seen nothing since he got that job that made you think they made a mistake in hiring him, and this might be the best team he's ever had.
They run such good stuff on offense. Like, they don't take a ton of threes. They're 361st in the country in 3-point field goal attempt, but like it's because they just hammer you on the inside. 7th in the country in height. Like I said, they're a top. They're 11th in offensive rebounding percentage.
I hate conference realignment. I think Dan Mullen might be right. Blow it up and start over. But the one cool thing over the last couple of years is that the Big 12 has become this fascinating basketball conference.
If the Pac-12 can't exist, I'm glad Arizona's in the Big 12.
Yeah, because you got Arizona.
I don't want to see these guys in the Big 10. I want to see
but,
these guys in the Big 12.
Yeah, I want to see Arizona and Kansas, and I want to see Arizona and Houston. Like, I want to see some of these, some of these Big 12 conference games. And yeah, Arizona is, they're as good as anyone Auburn is going to see all year, which is high praise, right? When you think about the teams on the schedule.
A few names to know right now is a quick scouting report. Koa Pete. This is an absurd freshman class in college basketball, and Koa Pete's right there with him. He had 30 in his college debut when they beat Florida. He had 37 and 5, 30 points, 7 boards, 5 assists. He was the best player on the floor when they beat UConn. He was 16 and 12 in that game with 3 assists, a couple blocks. He hasn't had that burst of scoring since he did in that first game where he just wore out Florida at the rim. But 18, 10, 7, 16, 12, 16 since he's had it. He's a great guy on the boards. He's as good as advertised. Auburn's going to have their hands full with him, especially when they pair him with, I'm going to botch this name, Matias Krivas, the 7-2 starting center in his third season at Arizona.
I thought you were about to say Karchenkov, right? I thought that was the one.
Well, here's big Krivas, the Lithuanian, the 7-2 guy, 64th in the country in offensive rating, top 25 in offensive rebounding rate, 50th in 2-point field goal percentage. He does what he does really, really well. He's also a top 100 shot blocker in the sport. And then they have a freshman in Karchenkov who is like, when he's good, it's really good. He fills it up. And then old pal Jaden Bradley is still at Arizona. Obviously started his career at Alabama.
Alabama guard, started a handful of games as a true freshman back in whatever his freshman year would have been, 22-23.
Yeah, 27 against Florida, 21 against UConn. He fills it up. Really good inside scorer, drives to the basket as well as any guard as you're going to see in the country. And then another familiar face, Toby Awaka, is there. Toby Awaka is coming off the bench his second season at Arizona. He is the number 2 offensive rebounder and number 1 defensive rebounder in the country by percentage right now, coming off the bench, playing about 20 minutes a game. Nobody rebounds as well as this dude does, and that's been the case since he showed up at Arizona. Was really good at that at Tennessee as well. Just an elite big man to bring off the bench at 6'8", but just bullies people on the glass.
Another crazy a guy who would be starting anywhere else in college basketball is Del Orso. Like he was at Campbell, and he was a 20-point a game guy at Campbell a couple of years ago. He's evolved his game. He's shooting 40+% from 3 now.
Did that last season as well.
Yeah, came up. Yeah, like he
6'6", great guard, great.
No, like he would be. I'm telling you, he would start practically anywhere. Like it to have a player like that coming off the bench.
He's close to a 50-40-90 guy right now.
Yeah, to have that coming off the bench for a team is like in this era of college basketball is crazy. Like this guy would be he'd be a big ticket player practically anywhere, and he's getting important minutes off the bench but to have a senior who can score like that as an option, as a sixth man, right, is just, I mean, that is an embarrassment of riches. And a roster.
And by the way, they have Braden Burries as well, who was one of the 5 best players in the country coming out of high school. He's done well in some of the paycheck games they've played. He's waiting to kind of break out in a big game. This would be big for him to do that, obviously. But a 6'4" guard that just does some of everything really, really well. Very interested to see what that is. This is a complete basketball team. They've had some issues with turnovers. And again, they don't take a lot of threes. So can Auburn go on the road, Dan, win the three-point battle? I think do their best to hold their own down low against this front court, because they are going to try to pound you on the glass and pound you around the rim in terms of their scoring, and they're great on the defensive end as well. I mean, they don't have a weakness on defense, and they make you earn everything you get. They play fast, they play smart, they've got a ton of talent. This is a massive matchup. Huge. This is, again, talent-wise, maybe a top 5 team in the country, playing like a top 10 team, currently number 2, haven't lost yet, have 2 of the best wins anybody's got in the country right now. Your work is cut out for you. Auburn's 8-point dog on KenPom, probably going to be around that. Like, it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight in a true road environment.
I don't know if I could identify a road game in conference play that Auburn plays that I think is a bigger challenge than going to Arizona and trying to beat this Arizona team. If this is a close game down the stretch, like if Auburn goes into the final 5 minutes of this game and we feel like this is still a 1-possession, 2-possession game that Auburn can win, at Arizona, to me, that bodes extremely well.
Like Florida is going to be extremely hard, but Florida's still figuring some stuff out, right? Alabama's going to be tough. Tennessee's going to be tough, but Arizona's just different.
This is like Houston, except you're not going to be playing in front of a 90% Auburn crowd like you did in
And this is like Michigan, and you're not going to be playing in front of like 1,000 people in a casino. Like,
right.
This is a big game for them.
This is a big game. Arizona's going to pack the place out. It's going to be the Zona Zoo, and that's something you're going to have to face. Something else you're going to have to face down on top of a roster that's probably top 3, top 5 in college basketball this year.
They lost twice at home last season in conference play. 1 point to BYU, 4 points to Houston. That's it.
He's been really. I mean, it goes with the territory, but he's been really good at home as their coach.
Needless to say, if Auburn was somehow to walk in there and walk out with an upset win, you're talking about, I mean, I'm going to say it, best true road win Auburn's had in years. Ooh, 1 versus 2 last year with Alabama was huge. But I mean,
and it's on the short list of the best road wins in program history.
Yeah,
like I mean, it's right there. And Alabama last year, you're right, with Bama being in the top 3 is on that list.
But you had it was number 1 versus number 2. This is a top 20-ish team against the number 2 team in the country. So you go in there, play fearlessly, let it rip. But play smart. Play smart. Hold your own on the glass and on defense. You give yourself a chance. I think if Auburn can bring that, they've shot well from 3 the last couple games, and if they can bring that, if they can pack that in their suitcase to Arizona, they'll give themselves a chance to hang in this game. But Arizona is going to make this one really difficult. Like this is, for the first time in a couple years, Dan, we're looking at an Auburn matchup heading into it being like, "Whoo boy!" Like you're going to have to. I mean, you got your hands full. Even more than Duke last season, even more than Michigan earlier this year, because I don't think we really knew how good Michigan was until that game.
Kevin Overton had a good game against Arizona in the Big 12 tournament. Last year did not play well in the one regular season, or actually, did not play well in either regular season matchup with Arizona, but played well in the third time. So he saw him 3 times last season.
26 and 3 with no turnovers and hit 4 threes. So.
And then Keyshawn Hall, right, also saw Arizona last year as part of the UCF schedule, and he had 22 and 22 6 and 5.
He was the KenPom MVP in that game that Arizona lost in. That was at McHale Center by 8. I remember when I was cutting up film from his season at UCF. I remember the Arizona game, being really impressed with him against Arizona.
And it's a different Arizona team this year, but the fact that you have a pair of guys, the fact that your Big 12 transfers had good games against Arizona last year is promising.
Yeah, 100%. All right, that'll do it. We will be back sometime early next week with our world travels. Heading to Arizona. I'm catching a flight early Friday morning, which is why we're recording this now, and before all the stuff going on Friday or Thursday afternoon.
I have a shocking update to our last piece of nonsense, Justin, which is that you. So I asked you if you were in the Ted Turner position of getting to program a cable channel, what Christmas movie would you schedule for 24 straight hours the way Ted Turner scheduled A Christmas Story? You said National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which is a great answer. Were you aware that this past weekend on TNT, they showed National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation for 24 straight hours, starting, I think, Saturday night And culminating Sunday night, TBS showed Elf for 24 straight hours this past weekend as well. No word on any network showing Eyes Wide Shut for 24 straight hours.
All right, so the first Christmas movie I saw this season was the Hallmark Buffalo Bills Hallmark Christmas movie. And I watch Hallmark movies with my wife from time to time and kind of riff on them. And she does too. We watch them for the humor in it.
By the way, Hallmark should, I'll make the pitch right now, Hallmark should hire us to get to do an MST3K at like midnight.
Or like Jeb Lund and David Roth. They've been doing that podcast for years.
Let us riff during like just at, midnight to 2 a.m. You don't have to do it during prime time, but give us like an alternate commentary.
Yeah.
Direct, let us do the alternate audio for a Hallmark movie.
I will say about the Buffalo Bills one, it was not good, but none of them are. Here's the funny thing, though, Dan. 2 different actors from The Sopranos on it.
Ooh.
The guy who and I'm gonna butcher.
I'm excited.
I'm gonna butcher these names, but
was Bobby Bacala in it?
Yes.
Yeah, Bobby Bacala.
And then the guy who played. Oh shoot! I'm gonna look it up now that it's on the top of my head. Okay, so it was Bobby, and then the guy who played Ralphie on The Sopranos.
Oh wow!
Joey Pants.
Joey Pants.
Yeah, Joey Pants.
He's also the he's the chief in Bad Boys, and he's the traitor in The Matrix. He's the guy who turns on him. Spoiler alert: he's the guy who turns out to be the turncoat of the group in The Matrix.
The male lead is Alexander Daddario's younger brother, and there's a reason why he's doing Hallmark movies. But I will say the funniest part of the movie, if you haven't, you probably won't see it, but the funniest part of this movie, you got the 2 Sopranos guys. They did great. The third best actor in this movie might have been Sean McDermott. And I don't know what that says for Sean McDermott, and I don't know what that says for the rest of the cast. But yeah, happy holidays. Watch the Buffalo Bills movie. Damar Hamlin does a really good job in it as well. So shout out to Damar. No Josh Allen though. It's probably a little too low budget for him.
Two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart.